When I drove down to my beach house that October morning, I thought I was meeting the rental agents to finalize a sale. The ocean shimmered in the distance, calm and endless, but something inside me already felt unsettled. "Mrs. Blake, this place is incredible," Jennifer, the younger agent, said as she stepped out of the car, heels clicking against the deck. "Oceanfront, 3 bedrooms, that wraparound porch, it'll sell in days." I smiled politely, but my hands trembled as I unlocked the door. This house held 40 years of memories. My husband Frank proposed to me right on that porch. My daughter Emma took her first steps in the living room. But memories didn't pay medical bills. 3 years after Frank's passing, debt still clung to me like fog. As I opened the door, a faint sound floated down from upstairs, soft laughter. A woman's giggle, a man's voice I recognized instantly. My pulse quickened. "Is someone supposed to be here?" asked Robert, the senior agent. I shook my head, motioning for them to stay back. The laughter came again, followed by the creak of the bed. My grandmother's quilt, my bedroom. I climbed the stairs slowly, each step creaking under my weight. Through the half-open door, I saw 2 figures tangled in my sheets. The man's back was unmistakable, broad shoulders, dark hair perfectly styled. My son-in-law, Matthew Carter. The woman beneath him was young, blonde, with manicured nails tracing his neck. Not my daughter. "Matthew Carter," I said firmly. The scream that followed echoed through the hallway. He jumped up, scrambling for the sheets, his mistress gasping in horror. "Mrs. Blake, I can explain," he stammered. "Oh, can you?" I said coldly. "Explain why you're in my house, in my bed with someone who isn't my daughter?" The young woman clutched the quilt. "I should go." "Stay right there, Sandra." Her startled eyes widened. I already knew who she was, the assistant Emma had once mentioned, the one Matthew trusted with late-night meetings. In that moment, rage turned into something else, clarity. My daughter's marriage wasn't just loveless, it was rotten to the core. Matthew scrambled to grab his clothes, muttering excuses that crumbled under the weight of my silence. "You don't understand," he said, buttoning his shirt. "Emma's fine. She has everything: house, car, security. What she doesn't know won't hurt her. She deserves love, Matthew, not lies." He laughed, a sharp, arrogant sound that made my skin crawl. "Love fades, Mrs. Blake. Comfort lasts. Besides, she wouldn't leave even if she knew. She's too scared to be alone." Those words were the final spark. I realized he wasn't just cheating, he was controlling her, making her doubt her own worth. I pulled out my phone. Matthew smirked. "Calling Emma? Go ahead, she won't believe you." But I didn't call my daughter. I scrolled to a different number. "Hello, Tony? It's Marianne Blake. Remember how you said to call if I ever needed anything?" Matthew froze. "Who the hell is Tony?" "You could say he's an old friend of Frank's," I said evenly. The truth was, Tony Russo had been Frank's partner on the Charleston police force for 15 years. After Frank died, Tony kept in touch, checking in, offering help, and now I needed him. Within minutes, Tony's calm, steady voice filled my ear. "Marianne, what's going on?" I told him everything: the affair, the beach house, Matthew's arrogance. Then Tony's tone changed. "You might want to sit down. We've been investigating Prestige Investments for months. Your son-in-law is on our radar for large-scale embezzlement. He's been siphoning money through fake accounts." The room tilted slightly. "How much?" "Nearly $2 million. I looked at Matthew, who was glaring at me, his mistress pale beside him. "Thank you, Tony," I said, my voice steady. "That confirms what I needed to know." I hung up, turned to Matthew, and smiled. "Get out of my house." He blustered, but there was fear behind his eyes now. "You'll regret this, Marianne. Emma depends on me." "Not for long," I said softly. "I'm about to remind her what independence looks like." As he stormed out, I snapped a few photos of him and Sandra Insurance. Then I stood in the quiet aftermath, the waves crashing faintly in the distance, and whispered to myself, "You picked the wrong family, Matthew." The next morning, I sat across from Detective Tony Russo at a small cafe near the courthouse. His gray eyes were sharp, the same steady look I remembered from Frank's days on the force. "Marianne," he said, leaning in, "we've been building a case for months. Prestige Investments is knee-deep in fraud, and Matthew Carter is right in the middle of it. We just need the evidence to tie him directly to the stolen money." "What kind of evidence?" I asked. "Proof of coercion, accounts in his name, or transactions involving family property. If he's using your house or your daughter's name, we can nail him." I thought about Emma's exhausted face, how she'd lost her spark since marrying him. He uses my house for his affairs. He might be using it for his crimes too. Tony nodded slowly. Then we make him show his hand. That afternoon I called Emma. Honey, how are you holding up? She sighed. Tired, Mom. Matthew's been working late again. He's under so much pressure with the company. Pressure. Right. I was thinking of selling the beach house, I said softly. Maybe Matthew could help. He seems to have a lot of business connections. There was a pause. That's actually a great idea. He knows real estate investors. Perfect. Later that evening, Tony and I sat in my living room planning. We'll wire you for sound, he said. If he's as arrogant as you describe, he'll brag. People like that always do. He'll think he's helping me, I said. He'll take the bait. Tony smiled faintly. You've still got that investigator's instinct, Marianne. Frank would be proud. When Matthew called the next morning, his voice was smooth as silk. Emma said you're looking to sell. I've got investors who could move quickly. Really? I'd need to sell fast. Medical bills are catching up. He chuckled softly. You called the right guy. After we hung up, I looked out toward the ocean. The same waves that once carried my happiest memories were now carrying something else resolve. Matthew thought he was playing me, but this time he'd walked straight into a trap. That evening, my house smelled of roast beef and fresh bread, Emma's favorite. I'd invited her and Matthew for dinner under the pretense of celebrating her upcoming birthday. In truth, it was a setup. When they arrived, Emma looked beautiful but tired, her smile strained. Matthew, on the other hand, radiated confidence. He glanced around my modest dining room like a man inspecting property he already owned. Nice place, Marianne, he said. Cozy. I returned his smile. Not much, but it's home. Over dinner, he played the perfect husband, pouring Emma's wine, complimenting her laugh, spinning stories about business trips and bonuses. She beamed at him, unaware each word was rehearsed manipulation. So, I said lightly, slicing a piece of bread, Emma mentioned you might know someone interested in my beach house. Matthew's eyes lit up. Absolutely. My company works with several private investors. They love quick, no-hassle deals? How quick? I asked. 10 days, maybe less, he said smoothly. Of course, for that speed, they'd want a discounted price. Say, $250,000. I set down my fork, pretending to hesitate. That's quite a loss. He shrugged. Better than waiting months. Besides, I could personally oversee the process. Make sure you're taken care of. Family helps family. Emma smiled faintly, proud of her husband's generosity. I forced a small laugh. That's very thoughtful. Inside, I felt sick. He was planning to rob me to my face, and my daughter was thanking him for it. When dessert came, I mentioned Frank's old retirement accounts. I never really understood investments, I said innocently. You probably could have helped me manage them, huh? Matthew leaned forward, his shark-like grin returning. You know, Marianne, I'd be happy to. That money should be working for you, not just sitting there. Perfect. He was taking the bait. When they left, he squeezed my shoulder. We'll talk business tomorrow. I watched his car disappear down the street, the smile finally fading from my face. He thought I was a lonely widow desperate for help. Tomorrow he'd find out I was something else entirely, Frank Blake's wife, and the woman who was about to end his game for good. The next afternoon, I walked into Matthew's office at Prestige Investments. The marble floors gleamed, the air smelled of money and ambition. He greeted me with that polished grin he used on clients. Marianne, so glad you came. His office overlooked downtown Charleston, sleek, expensive, and soulless. He gestured for me to sit. Coffee? Water? Coffee, please, I said, hiding the small recording device clipped inside my blazer. So, he began, pulling out a folder. I've got great news. One of my investors is ready to make an offer cash deal. Quick close. I feigned surprise. Already? That's fast. That's what happens when you work with professionals, he said smugly. $240,000, all cash. And for handling the transaction, I'll take a modest 8% fee. I smiled faintly. That sounds generous of you. He mistook politeness for weakness and leaned back, relaxed. This is a good move for you, Marianne. You're selling an old property you can't maintain anyway. Think of it as simplifying your life. Simplifying my life. The same phrase he'd used to convince Emma to quit painting, to stop seeing her friends, to make herself small enough to fit into his world. What kind of business is your investor in? I asked. Import-export, he said quickly. Big money, very discreet. Discreet is important, I murmured, pretending to study the papers. And the funds will go through your company's escrow account? Of course, he said. Prestige handles everything. Completely secure. Perfect. He just confirmed the link Tony needed between the stolen company funds and his personal deals. When I stood to leave, I gave him one last bait. You know, Frank always said men who understand money can be dangerous. Matthew chuckled. Then you should be glad I'm on your side. As the elevator doors closed, I exhaled the breath I'd been holding. My hands were steady. My voice was calm. The recording in my pocket had captured every word. By morning, Detective Russo would have enough evidence to end Matthew's empire: one forged contract, one fake investor, and one very stupid mistake. The next morning dawned clear and cold. The kind of Charleston morning that made the air feel sharp enough to cut glass. I dressed carefully in my navy suit, the one Frank always said made me look unstoppable. The small wire Tony had given me was hidden neatly under my collar. At exactly 10 o'clock, a knock echoed through my front door. Matthew stood there, briefcase in hand, and that infuriating confidence plastered across his face. "Morning, Marianne," he said smoothly. "Ready to sign?" "Of course," I replied, ushering him in. "I've been looking forward to getting this over with." He spread the papers across my coffee table, tapping them with his pen like a man in control. 240,000, cash deal. My investor's ready to transfer funds today. You're a lucky woman. Lucky, I repeated softly. Yes, I suppose I am. As he explained the paperwork, I pretended to skim the pages. Every line reeked of fraud. The buyer was listed as Coastal Property LLC, one of the shell companies Tony had already flagged. "Matthew," I said lightly, "this is all legitimate, right? Frank used to warn me about deals that sound too good to be true." He gave a dry laugh. "Marianne, I'm a professional. You have nothing to worry about." "Of course," I said, signing the first page. That's when the doorbell rang. Matthew frowned. "Expecting someone?" "Not that I recall." I opened the door, and there stood Tony Russo, flanked by two officers in plain clothes. "Good morning, Marianne," he said warmly. "Hope I'm not interrupting." "Not at all," I replied, stepping aside. "We were just finishing up some business." Tony's eyes met Matthew's. "Mr. Carter, we've been expecting you." Matthew blinked, the color draining from his face. "Expecting me?" Tony held up a badge. "You're under arrest for embezzlement, fraud, and conspiracy. You have the right to remain silent." As the cuffs clicked shut, Matthew sputtered, "You set me up." I met his furious glare calmly. "No, Matthew, you set yourself up. I just pressed record." He was led out the door while Tony gave me a small nod. "Nice work, Marianne." Frank would have been proud. That afternoon, my living room felt too quiet. The contract still lay on the table, unsigned, a silent reminder of how close Matthew had come to ruining us all. The phone rang. It was Emma. "Mom, what's going on?" Matthew called me from some police station. "He says you set him up." My throat tightened. "Sweetheart, come over, please. I'll explain everything when you're here." 20 minutes later, she arrived still in her nurse's scrubs, eyes wide with fear. "Mom, what happened? Is Matthew okay?" "Sit down," I said gently. "There's something you need to know." As I spoke, I watched the color drain from her face. I told her about the affair, the fake investors, the stolen money. When I finished, silence filled the room. $2 million, Emma whispered. "All stolen. That can't be right." "It's true. Tony has the evidence. And, Emma, he used your name on some of the accounts." She looked up sharply. "He what?" "He forged your signature. He was setting you up to take the blame." Emma pressed her hands to her face, shaking her head. "I loved him. I defended him. God, Mom, I thought he was my safety." I reached out, touching her hand. "He made you believe that, but you don't need him to survive. You never did." For a long time, she just sat there, silent, tears rolling down her cheeks. Then she stood up slowly. "I'm filing for divorce." "Are you sure you're ready for that?" Emma's voice steadied. "Ready? I've been ready for years. I just didn't know it until now." When she left that night, she was still heartbroken, but her posture was different, straighter, stronger. Later, Tony called. "We've got enough evidence to secure a conviction. But Marianne, your daughter's name will come up during the trial. She'll need support. She'll have it, I said quietly. From now on, she's not fighting alone. For the first time in years, I felt peace. Not victory, just relief. Matthew's empire was crumbling, but what mattered more was that Emma was finally free to rebuild her own. 3 months later, the courthouse smelled of coffee paper and cold determination. I sat in the front row as the trial began, watching Emma take the stand. She wore a simple gray dress, her hair pulled back, her voice calm and clear. "Mrs. Carter," the prosecutor began, "were you aware of your husband's embezzlement activities?" Emma lifted her chin. "No, I wasn't. I trusted him. He controlled every account, every decision. I thought he was protecting us. I was wrong." The defense attorney tried to rattle her. "You enjoyed the vacations, the jewelry, the lifestyle, didn't you?" "Yes," she said quietly, "because I believed the money was earned honestly. That's not a crime, it's trust." Her words silenced the courtroom. Even the judge paused before nodding. Then Matthew's former colleague James Morrison testified. He showed me the system he built: fake clients, fake accounts. When I refused to join, he said he had insurance. "Insurance?" the prosecutor asked. "He said his wife's name was on enough documents to take the fall if things went bad." A murmur rippled through the room. Emma's hands trembled, but her eyes stayed fixed on Matthew. He looked smaller than I'd ever seen him, his arrogance stripped away, replaced by fear. When the verdict came, the jury didn't even look at him. Guilty on all counts, 12 years in prison. Restitution ordered, $2.3 million. Outside the courthouse, Emma turned to me, her eyes red but clear. "You saved me, Mom?" I smiled softly. "No, sweetheart, you saved yourself. I just lit the match." Months later, I stood in a small Charleston art gallery, watching Emma's first exhibition. Her paintings glowed with color and emotion: grief, rebirth, freedom. The centerpiece was called "Breaking Free: A Woman Emerging from Darkness into the Light." That night, as we walked along the harbor, Emma took my hand. "I'm happy, Mom, really happy. I didn't think I'd ever say that again." I squeezed her hand gently. "That's the thing about strong women, Emma. We bend, but we don't break. And when we rise higher than before."